A 30-year-old Namibian national found with 68 bullet-sized cocaine-filled packets in her stomach has been sentenced to 8 years direct imprisonment by the Kempton Park Magistrates Court.
A young woman, a suitcase, a promise of love, or perhaps just adventure. That is how Pauline Mbangula's story began. But the way it ended in a South African courtroom left no room for romance. Only 8 years behind prison walls, and the haunting knowledge of how close she came to losing her life before the law even touched her. Pauline was 30 years old, a Namibian who thought she was leaving for a holiday. At least, that is what she told police later. She said a man had charmed her, convinced her of an escape to Brazil, that exotic city of Sao Paulo, where the lights blur and strangers are everywhere. But at O Tambo International Airport, on her way back into South Africa, she was no longer a tourist. She was a carrier, a mule. And inside her body, silent packages rattled with deadly purpose. Police moved in swiftly. Something about her raised alarms. The medical exam confirmed their suspicions. X-rays lit up her stomach like a crime scene. At least 68 sachets were lodged inside her. Sachets filled not with food, not with medicine, but with cocaine. She was rushed into medical supervision, forced to give up what she carried. One by one, the evidence was expelled, each tiny packet, another nail in the coffin of her freedom. She stood before the Kempton Park Magistrates Court, facing the weight of South African justice. 8 years was the sentence, though 3 were suspended. A calculated mercy, perhaps, but still long enough to erase the glow of her 30s. Long enough for memories of Sao Paulo to fade into nothing but shadows behind prison walls. The police told their version of events. Pauline had claimed she was tricked. That she believed she was travelling for leisure, only to discover she was to be a vessel for someone else's profit. But who was this mysterious man? His name never surfaced. His shadow loomed over the story, untouchable, while Pauline bore the cost. It is the classic pattern: a vulnerable recruit, a hidden syndicate, and a human body turned into contraband. The South African Police Service did not sound surprised. Over the past year, they said, more than 22 drug mules had been caught at the same airport. O Tambo had become a hunting ground for both syndicates and the law. On one side, desperate young women promised opportunity. On the other, vigilant officers waiting for the next body carrying hidden poisons. Police spokesperson Brigadier Aflenda Math spoke with warning: drug mules will not escape detection. She said the arrests should serve as a strong message. That no matter how cunning these syndicates believe themselves to be, the eyes of the state are trained on them. The reminder was sharp, especially directed at young women. Do not fall victim, she urged.
On Sunday, we received intelligence that this particular lady would land just after 7:25, and she would be carrying drugs with her.
The consequence is not glamour or wealth. It is metal bars, shame, and the slow passing of years. Meanwhile, back in Namibia, the numbers painted an even darker picture. The numbers seized in June of 2025 are not isolated. 7.2 grams of coke, 600,000 kilograms of weed, and about 300 Mandrax tablets. These numbers form part of a much longer and more troubling history of Namibia's entanglement with the regional drug trade. Namibia, with its vast coastlines and porous borders, has for decades been a quiet but significant corridor for narcotics moving between continents. During the 1990s, security agencies began warning that the ports of Walvis Bay and Lüderitz were vulnerable entry points. Cargo arriving from South America, West Africa, and Europe could be shifted inland with minimal checks. By the early 2000s, cannabis cultivated locally in rural parts of northern Namibia had become not only a domestic trade, but also a regional export, feeding markets across Angola, Zambia, and South Africa. The rise of Mandrax, often called buttons in street slang, marked another turning point. Namibia became a transit hub, with tablets imported mainly from clandestine laboratories in Asia and pushed through its towns before being smuggled further south. Cases reported in Windhoek, Oshakati, and Swakopmund revealed how local distributors often masked themselves as small business owners, embedding narcotics in legitimate-seeming operations. The flow of drugs is rarely random. It follows the highways, the trucking routes, the informal taxi lines. The very veins of trade and travel become the veins of crime. What makes Namibia particularly vulnerable is its geography. A country with vast, scarcely monitored stretches of desert and long, sparsely populated borders provides ideal cover for traffickers. Criminal networks understand this, exploiting weak surveillance and the lure of easy passage between Angola, Zambia, Botswana, and South Africa. The result is that Namibia is not just a consumer nation, but a key player in a much wider web of trafficking routes. So when Pauline carried those sachets inside her body, she was not just a lone traveller. She was a link in a chain forged long before her birth, a chain that stretches from Brazil to Johannesburg, from Walvis Bay to Windhoek, from the shadows of one continent to the shadows of another. And so Pauline's case becomes both personal and symbolic. A young woman caught in a machine far bigger than herself. She may have believed she was going on holiday, but in truth she was already on trial the moment she swallowed those sachets. Each step through the airport terminal was a countdown. Each smile at customs another roll of the dice. The syndicate members who sent her stayed hidden in the dark, while she became their sacrifice. 8 years. For some, it may sound like justice. For others, it may feel like tragedy. A young life redirected into punishment, while the architects of her downfall remain unnamed. But that is the story of drug trafficking. The leaders stay invisible, and the couriers become the headlines. Why do people like Pauline agree, or appear to agree, to carry such unbearable risks inside their bodies? Psychologists who have studied drug mules say it often begins with vulnerability. Poverty, unemployment, and the desperation to provide for families create cracks that predators exploit. Syndicates look for those cracks, prying them wider with promises of easy travel, new opportunities, or quick money. There is also the psychology of trust. A young woman may believe she has found a partner, a friend, or a mentor. The manipulation is personal. Syndicates know that deception works best when it is wrapped in affection. A supposed lover becomes the recruiter. A kind stranger at a bar becomes the handler. By the time the truth is revealed, the person is already trapped. Fear plays its part too. Once a mule has agreed, or once they are deceived into taking the first step, threats tighten around them like a noose. Some are told their families will be harmed if they refuse. Others are reminded of the debts they supposedly owe. A person becomes both victim and accomplice, bound by coercion and by silence. Studies of convicted drug couriers show another striking pattern. Many genuinely believe they would not be caught. Hope becomes a shield, even when reality says otherwise. They imagine they can slip through security. They convince themselves the packets will hold. They tell themselves this one time will be the last. But in airports like Tambo, hope collides with scanners, suspicion, and unblinking law enforcement. The psychology of a mule is therefore a mixture of illusion, desperation, and fear. Some see themselves as victims, others embrace the role of risk-taker, but in every case, the cost is staggering. A body becomes a container, a life becomes disposable. And behind it all, syndicates stay silent, hidden, and calculating. Pauline's story is not rare, it is a reminder. At every airport, behind every ordinary traveller, there might be another desperate figure, one heartbeat away from discovery. Consider the infamous cocaine Pringles case that stunned European authorities. 2 men attempted to smuggle cocaine concealed in sealed potato chip cans, believing the mundane packaging would shield them from suspicion. But scanners and careful inspections revealed the ruse. Just like Pauline, they discovered that no disguise is foolproof once the machinery of detection begins to hum. Or take the tragic stories of the so-called South African drug brides in Asia. Young women, often lured by promises of love or glamorous travel, ended up imprisoned in countries like Thailand and Malaysia, where penalties are far harsher than in South Africa. Their stories carry chilling echoes of Pauline's claim, deceived into believing in romance, then coerced into swallowing, carrying, or concealing deadly packages. The difference is geography and punishment, not method. There are also cases in Australia, where mules arriving from South America were found with pellets inside their bodies, some bursting mid-flight with fatal results. In such moments, the risk is not only arrest, but death from poisoning before the plane even lands. The mule is never just a courier, they are the first expendable casualty in the business of narcotics. When seen side by side, these cases reveal a pattern of exploitation that stretches across continents. Syndicates adapt the packaging, change the routes, invent new disguises, but the human equation remains the same. Vulnerable people are transformed into vessels. Their bodies become both storage and evidence. And when the law strikes, it is the mule's name, face and sentence that make the headlines, while the syndicates themselves remain faceless, silent, and in the shadows.
As Pauline's story closes, the questions linger. Was she truly a victim of deception, or did she knowingly take the gamble? And, more importantly, how many more young women are walking into the same trap right now, believing they are stepping onto a plane for love or adventure, when in fact, they are stepping into a prison cell? What do you think? Was Pauline a pawn or an equal player in a dangerous game? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters. And if you want to keep following stories like this, real accounts of crime, corruption, and the hidden hands behind them, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you will never miss the next story waiting in the shadows.